Hello, beautiful soul, and welcome to the Mystic Therapist Podcast. This is the podcast where modern psychology meets ancient healing, and you will learn to regulate your nervous system, understand your patterns, and come home to yourself. So, today we're going to be talking about anxiety and how you can finally calm your own anxiety. We're going to talk about what is anxiety because this is the first step in how to eliminate it. You need to understand what it is, where is it even coming from, and then how to work with your anxiety instead of letting it control your life. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. What is anxiety? So first of all, anxiety is not a flaw. Anxiety is a survival response that has been ingrained in humans for hundreds of thousands of years. It's a part of us biologically, and it's actually there to try to protect you. And it has successfully protected you probably in a lot of circumstances. So let's go ahead and debunk that anxiety is a bad thing. Anxiety is something that's actually there to help you, but in modern day, anxiety just gets used too much and used for things that aren't actually like life or death scenarios. Anxiety is not a flaw. It does not mean something is wrong with you. Okay, so let's toss that belief out the window. Anxiety is your nervous system scanning for danger. It's trying to keep you safe, even whenever you're not actually in danger. And the problem is your body doesn't always know the difference between real danger and perceived danger. So the reason why you might be struggling with anxiety or have so much anxiety is because your survival response is saying that there is a lot of danger out there, perceived danger and not real danger. So it's just confused on what's real life threatening stuff and just getting a text that makes you stressed out, or just having to go to work in the morning, or just having to deal with traffic. Your body and mind is registering this as like, you're going to die, we need to protect you, when really the perception is completely wrong. Obviously, whenever you get a text, it doesn't mean you're going to die. Whenever you have to have a tough conversation that causes anxiety, it doesn't mean you're in this life or death situation. So we're just getting a little bit confused with how to use anxiety. But it's not your enemy, it's your friend. We just need to look at it and understand it instead of trying to push it down and pushing down and be mad at it, because it's actually there to serve you. It's just been overdoing it. So let's go ahead and take it back so you can understand this a little bit more. Let's take it back to hundreds of thousands of years ago. I don't even know the exact year, but let's take it back to whenever people lived in villages. They lived out in nature. We didn't have homes. We didn't have these safe spaces to live. We didn't know when we were going to get our next meal. Our ancestors and people who were living on Earth just killing animals and picking blueberries to survive. You know what I mean? They actually needed anxiety biologically because they needed to survive weather, animals, threats, hunger. They really needed anxiety to survive, and that's why it's there in the first place. However, most of us now have places to live. We don't have to stress about when we're getting our next meal and things like that, but anxiety has been wired into modern day when it's not completely accurate. We just need to learn, how do I differentiate from like real anxiety that's there to protect me? For instance, if you are walking through tall grass and you're out in the middle of nature, of course, you maybe want to scan for like snakes, or you want to be aware of a storm coming, or you want to be aware if there's a creepy man on the path with you, right? Like those are instances where anxiety is helpful and useful. Anxiety is not helpful and useful in our day-to-day interactions when we're just getting anxious from having a tough conversation at work, when we're getting super anxious about an issue going on in our relationship, having to go to a certain social event, being inside the grocery store, right? Like these are not real dangers. And so I know I'm kind of repeating myself here, but I hope it's making sense. This is what anxiety actually is. It's like this pestering. You can think of it as like a pestering little friend, whatever you want to call it. Let's call her worrying Wendy. And worrying Wendy is just like, I'm just trying to help you. Oh my goodness, this could happen. This could happen. This could happen. Oh my goodness. What about this? What about this? You're stressed. Your body's amped up. I just want to help you. And instead of pushing her away like a little gnat, which can be helpful sometimes, but we have to be like, Wendy, we're not actually in danger right now. Let's just like reel it in. You're safe. You're safe. And there's really nothing to be super stressed out about. You're going to be okay. We just have to provide Wendy with a little bit of reassurance, okay? And that is one way to heal your anxiety. But let's keep going and talk about, where does your anxiety come from? So I talked about just kind of as a collective where anxiety is coming from, but what about you specifically? So there's a few different places where anxiety can come from, and these include biological and nervous systems, learned early childhood experiences, traumatic experiences, and then it can be very situational and triggered as well. So I'm going to break down like, what are these three? And maybe you find yourself in a certain category, or maybe you're in all three and that's why you have extreme anxiety. So biological nervous system, like I mentioned, your body is wired for survival. We used to use anxiety to stay alive, finding food, avoiding danger. But now the same system gets activated by things like text, relationships, work, or overthinking. So your body is in a constant state of fight or flight that is very outdated, okay? And so your nervous system is just amped up all the time because it thinks you're always in real danger when you're not. So your biology and your nervous system is just rattled all the time. That's where we get this fight or flight response. I'm always in fight or flight. I'm always feeling shaky. I'm always feeling on edge. When is the shoe gonna drop? If this is resonating with you, you're most likely in that biological nervous system category on where your anxiety is coming from. So now let's talk about learned childhood early experiences, because this can be a root of anxiety for a lot of people as well. If you grew up in an environment that was really chaotic, that was really unpredictable, stressful, emotionally unsafe, trauma, violence, yelling, even children of parents of addicts, children of parents who fought a lot, of having to move around a lot, like there was so much change and instability and chaos, your body is going to be wired in a way that is constantly on edge, because that is what has shaped you. All of those experiences you had as a kid, even if you had a parent who had mental illness, or you had an anxious parent, you had a parent whose mood went like this, your nervous system and your mind is going to be wired for like, I always have to be on guard for what's going on at home, because something could change, someone's mood could shift, and that means danger for me. They could come home drunk, they could get in a fight. If I do this, and I'm going to get yelled at, or I'm going to get hurt. So growing up in a really chaotic, unstable, and just stressful environment can literally like create the pattern in your body where you're going to be an anxious adult. So if you grew up with a lot of those experiences, this is a learned behavior. Anxiety is actually what you have learned from a young age. And now you're an adult and you're not necessarily in a situation that's super unsafe and unstable now. However, it's hard to unlearn that whenever you have felt like that for so long. Basically, your body learned, I need to be on edge to stay okay. And now as an adult, you go around feeling on edge all the time. You have your perception of the world and other people and your environment is literally shaped from that. So your brain has learned to just stay alert more than other people who maybe had calm or loving or very relaxing, stable childhoods. You are just shaped in a totally different way. So if this is resonating with you, then you are in that category of your anxiety is from learned and early experiences. So the next category that you could be in is a situational and like triggered anxiety. So maybe anxiety developed after a certain event. I have personally had this happen to me. This can happen to some sort of traumatic event or kind of life-altering event. For instance, as a collective, COVID. COVID was a very stressful, unpredictable, anxiety-inducing event across the whole world. After COVID, a lot of children and adults have mental health disorders. OCD spiked, anxiety spiked. All of these fears that they didn't know was happening, it happened because of a triggering event, a situational event. Being in COVID, germs, people were sick, people were dying. Maybe they had a loved one that did die. Maybe they were watching the news all the time. Who knows? But this situational kind of things can trigger anxiety, and often a lot of mental health disorders can get triggered by this as well. Even things like losing someone you love, maybe having a health scare, maybe having financial stress or heartbreak, or, I know whenever I was 17, I was in a situation where someone broke into the house that I was staying at, and they were in the house and they had stole guns. And it was a very, very, very scary and traumatic incident that caused my anxiety to go up a few levels because of that. So there was this event that happened, came home and there were knives out, guns were gone. Sorry, I should have provided a trigger warning for this, but that caused a lot of anxiety for me afterwards. And I had this fear and anxiety of whenever I come home, someone's going to be in the house and, who knows what they're doing. So that's another instance of like how a situational thing can trigger anxiety. Even like, if you lost a loved one to something, that can cause health anxiety. If you've yourself had your own health problems, that can cause health anxiety. So I feel like you're understanding my drift, but basically that's something that made your nervous system go, we need to protect ourselves now. Maybe you had kind of normal stress, but then you had this situation happen and now you're like, I seriously need to protect myself now because that was awful and terrifying. And now your nervous system, it's like something like turned on, like a switch went off in your mind kind of thing. So if this is resonating with you, maybe you fit into that situational or triggered anxiety category. So those are the 3 categories that I often see. Like I said, we've got biological nervous system, we've got early learned childhood experiences, and then a situational kind of triggering anxiety event that happens. So now we're going to talk about the anxiety loop. And I promise after we get through this first chunk, we're going to dive into how to calm it. But in order to learn how to even calm it, you need to know where it's coming from and what's actually going on. Having the psychoeducation behind it is going to help you tremendously have that self-awareness. It's the first step. So what is the anxiety loop? So the anxiety loop is where most people get stuck. So you have a triggering event happen or you have a thought. The anxiety starts, right? Okay, so you have a thought. Something's wrong. What if something bad happened? What are they thinking of me? This is stressing me out. Travel anxiety. Whatever it is, you have that ping, right? Then your body reacts. Your heart's racing. Your face is turning red. You feel shaky, nauseous, tension. All of those things, physical symptoms happen right after that the thought happens. They are like this, our mind and our physical reactions. Then you notice, my goodness, why do I feel like this? I don't want to feel like this. Of course, who would want to feel like this? It feels horrible. So your body starts to react. Your mind is already reacting. And then you're like, I don't want to feel this way. So you escape. You either don't go to the event because you're too worried about seeing a certain person or what someone's going to think of you, or you avoid confronting the thing that's making you anxious, or you just numb out, detach, and have bad coping skills. So maybe you feel worried or anxious. So some people go to substances and drinking or using substances because they feel a little on edge, right? Or they distract themselves, which can be a good coping skill, but sometimes it can fall into that category of like escapism. So basically you avoid it. You're like, I'm not dealing with this thing. Oh my God, go away, worry Wendy. I don't like you. And there's bad coping skills that happen or just avoidance in general. And what this does is it makes your anxiety worse. It's going to grow and grow and grow because you are reinforcing it. You're like, yeah, this is a scary thing that I have to avoid. Here it comes up again. This is a scary thing I have to avoid. Some people get anxiety around like planes or seeing certain family members or even just like having to go to work or whatever it might be. And it just continues to build and build and build until you actually address the thing. So you're not anxious because something is wrong. You are anxious because your brain thinks something might be wrong. Okay, that is huge. You're not anxious because something is wrong. You are anxious because your brain thinks something is wrong. So how do we cope? Okay, so we've talked about where anxiety comes from, like historically speaking. Then we talked about the category that you might be in. Now we're talking about the anxiety loop. Okay, so how do we address this? How do we end the anxiety loop once and for all and get rid of this anxiety? So let's talk about what actually helps, because mindset alone is not enough. Just telling yourself to not be anxious. How many of you have like, oh my goodness, I'm feeling anxious or I'm feeling on edge, and someone just tells you to calm down, right? Or just stop worrying. Don't think of it that way. No, we need some other things. So I'm going to give you a list of a ton of different things that will help you cope with anxiety. Like, I'm a licensed therapist. I have dealt with anxiety personally. These are the things that I have seen actually work with hundreds of people, thousands of people, myself included. So this is like a no BS. This is not fluff. These are things that actually work. So you want to maybe get out a piece of paper and pencil, write these down, resonates with you, and try some of them. Okay, so number 1, you need to regulate your nervous system. What does that mean? How do we do this? So before you've tried to fix your thoughts, it can be actually a lot more helpful to calm your body. So nervous system regulation. 1, this is something you need to be implementing into your life every day in order to get yourself to a better baseline. If you are a person that's anxious and on edge and things like that, a lot of different things to do to regulate your Nervous system. What do I do? What do I see works? Any sort of grounding technique, anything that makes you feel calm. This could be taking deep breaths. This could be self-massage, rubbing your body with oil. This could be going outside. This could be petting your animal. This could be so many different things, but you need to find ways to ground yourself. Grounding means calming yourself, being more present. Not up in here, but we're down here. Fidget toys help a lot of people ground. Even rubbing your legs. I often do that a lot when I'm talking to people. Anything that really helps you just feel more relaxed. Another thing that can work for grounding and distress tolerance, which we'll get into, but cold temperatures have been proven to be very effective for managing those overwhelming senses of anxiety and stress. So every single morning, I take an ice roller and I put it on my face. You can do ice on your wrist. You can take a cold shower. Things like this help the body regulate itself and your nervous system. So I'll do a whole other episode on ways to regulate your nervous system, but that's going to be number one. Number two, this is going to be a cognitive behavioral therapy approach, which I do find really useful. And it's reframing your thoughts. So at the end of the day, it's been proven time and time and time again in the science world and psychology world, but also if we're getting a little woo-woo here, this is the mystic therapist. So in manifestation and spirituality and Buddhism, in all kinds of things, thoughts do affect you a lot. Your thoughts affect you a lot. So you need to check in with the way that you're thinking and try to reframe it. So ask yourself, is this thought actually true? What is the probability of this actually happening? Where is the evidence for my thought? What is a more balanced perspective? If I told my friend or if I told my therapist or whoever the thought that I'm having, what would they say to me? What would be some alternatives? So any way that you can widen your thinking, whether that's talking to another person, whether that's journaling about it, but just being aware of your little lens of thinking and being able to widen it a little bit can be extremely helpful. So offering yourself a more balanced perspective, challenging your thinking. This could be a whole other episode in itself. But reframing your thoughts, start there. Pause when you notice the destructive thinking and choose another way because it is affecting your anxiety more than you realize. Okay, so the third thing that will help with your anxiety is stop avoiding the thing. Exposure therapy. One of the most effective ways to get rid of anxiety. Avoidance feels great in the moment, right? Like it feels great, but it's actually teaching your brain that the thing is dangerous. So like a lot of people get uncomfortable with their emotions. And so they'll go to drugs or escapism or ways to numb out. That's all avoiding. A lot of people have social anxiety, so they just won't go to social things. Like, of course, much better. Love this for me. So many different ways people avoid, but it's basically just not doing the thing that's making you anxious. So maybe it's driving on highways. Of course, is there risks to driving? Like driving can be unsafe. We can't always control what other people are going to do, even if we're driving really well. However, what is the likelihood of actually getting in a crash? Is this preventing me from doing things that I actually want to do by not going on the highway, right? So trying to expose yourself to the thing that feels dangerous because every time you avoid it, you're reinforcing the fear. It's getting more and more big in your head. It's going to be harder. And you want to expose yourself in a way that feels safe. So in therapy, I do this with a lot of people, is there's like a hierarchy of exposures and we can start at like a 10 out of a 100. So what feels like a little bit of an exposure? Maybe it's just imaginary, like imagining yourself driving on the highway, or maybe it's being in the car with someone as they drive on the highway, or maybe it's driving past the highway, right? And we build ourselves up to actually doing this thing. So jump into it and just shock your nervous system. But you got to find ways to ease it. Okay. And this can look so many different ways. Like someone who has social anxiety. What's a way that you can get over social anxiety? Well, starting at a level 10, maybe you just text your friends. Maybe you just text people, hey, what's up? How are you doing? Okay. Maybe that's a lot for you to do that. Maybe another thing is sitting and watching a YouTube video of being at a party. I know this sounds silly, but I promise this works. And there can be so many different alternatives, but maybe it's sitting there and imagining yourself at this event. Maybe it's going to the grocery store and asking the cashier a question. Maybe that's like your level 30 or 40. Maybe the next one is going to coffee with somebody and just staying there for 30 minutes. Okay? So you start to see how you slowly start to build yourself up, and you will start to eliminate the social anxiety. And that's for any anxiety. You can create an exposure therapy plan for yourself. Another one, DBT skills. I am the DBT queen. I will do a whole other podcast episode on DBT. And I have lots of videos about DBT. But keep it simple. Tip. A tip is a DBT skill that I have found very effective for myself and other people. It's called Tip the Temperature, Intense Exercise, Pace Breathing, and Progressive Muscle Relaxation. These 4 things are super helpful for managing really intense emotions. But DBT skills, like I said, I have lots of DBT skills that I teach on, can be very helpful for managing your emotions and distress, and particularly anxiety. And other things as well. So tip is one of my favorite ones. I'll mention other ones later in this video too, but definitely just having some skills to help you manage your anxiety. Number 5. So anxiety it makes us feel like things are unsafe. So something you need to learn to do is learn how to create safety in your body. Even having a softer tone with yourself, not being so harsh with yourself, because a lot of anxiety comes from not feeling safe internally. Like I said, if you grew up in an environment with early childhood experiences where everyone was always amped up, everything was always on edge, you're always scared and nervous and walking on eggshells, it's going to be hard to feel safe because your body has been wired to not feel safe. So even little things like hugging yourself, telling yourself you're safe. I am safe right now. I am safe right now. I know I'm having anxiety. I know I'm getting triggered, but I am safe. In this moment, I am safe. Giving yourself a hug. Slowing down your breath, giving yourself little cues that you are safe. Maybe it's a certain scent. This can be really helpful. This is also a DBT skill. Self-soothing, creating safety in our body, soothing ourselves, having an essential oil and smelling it, maybe rubbing lotion on our hands, right? Just reminding yourself and giving yourself cues that tell your body and your mind that you're safe right now is very, very powerful and will help take the anxiety like this and just call out the anxiety for what it is. I'm having anxiety and I am safe right now. I notice that I'm getting triggered right now. My body thinks I'm unsafe, but I'm here to remind you that you are safe. Everything's okay. Tell that little worry windy character, everything's fine. Everything is safe. You're feeling anxiety, but everything is safe. You are not in any danger. Super, super powerful for combating anxiety. And the last one, but not least, is getting back to basics. You've heard these things before, but they affect your body. The research has been done. They affect your mind. They affect your anxiety and your mental health. So this part is often overlooked. People are like, how do I get out of anxiety? How do I get out of depression? How do I get out of these things? Let's get back to basics first and foremost. How much are you sleeping? Are you sleeping enough? What are you eating? Are you eating enough? Are you eating things that are going to nourish your body? Are you drinking enough water? Are you drinking too much caffeine? Are you drinking too much alcohol? Are you moving your body every day in a way that's right for you? In a way that's capable of for you? You cannot heal anxiety while ignoring your body. You have to make sure that you get back to these basic things because they impact you. So regulating your sleep. Maybe you're like, dang, yeah, my sleep is kind of effed up. I'm sleeping 12 hours one day and then 4 hours the next, and then I go to bed at 2 a.m. and then I wake up at 6 a.m. That in itself, whenever you're running on a lack of sleep, you can't regulate your emotions as easier. So maybe your one thing is just I've got to get a better sleep schedule. And that's another thing with all these coping skills that I'm giving you. Start with one. Okay, stick to that one for a couple weeks. And then until you get that one, then let's add another. So you don't want to overwhelm your nervous system with all these coping skills. You want to just ease into it too. And just practice little by little shifts that you can do. You don't want to overwhelm yourself. So yeah, maybe for you it's sleep. And you're like, you know what? I need to get 8 hours of sleep or 7 hours of sleep, whatever it is. And so I'm going to focus on that for the next couple of weeks, see how this impacts my mood. And then I'm going to start doing the exposure therapy once I get my sleep under control. Get back to basics. Sleep, food. Are you taking care of yourself? Are you going to the doctor whenever you're sick? This is also a DBT skill called Please, which is treating physical illness, eating, exercising, sleeping, all of those things that we're talking about. So I want you to just check in with yourself on those things as well, because they do have an impact on how well you're able to regulate your emotions. It's creating like a baseline for you. I want to talk a little bit more about too the mind body connection kind of as we close this out a little bit. So your anxiety is always communicating with you, or your body is always communicating with you. And I don't want you to think of anxiety as something you have to get rid of and something that's terrible and awful. It's really just something that you need to understand. You need to look at it, understand where you coming from, and what can I do to help? How can I help soothe you? Is it telling you that you're safe now? Is it doing little nervous system rituals every day? Do you just need more sleep and better food? Are you just anxious because you literally drink coffee till 10 o'clock at night, right? Are you anxious because you had this horrible traumatic event and I see you and I hear you and I know this horrible thing happened, but you're safe now? So many different reasons. I hope that you were able to kind of reflect on your own anxiety and where it might be coming from and what might be helpful for you, because it's like a whole spectrum of like what this look like. It's so personal to each person. And yeah, sometimes it's your nervous system asking for safety. Sometimes it's your life asking for a change. Sometimes it's your habits that need change. Maybe it's even your relationships that are making you anxious. Maybe you are in a toxic relationship or have a bad friendship and it's really affecting you. And so that's time to do inner reflection. So I hope this helped explain anxiety, where it's coming from, and give you more insight on why you might be having your anxiety. And as we come to a close, I just want to remind you, you are not broken. Your nervous system has just learned to protect you in a certain way. And now you are learning and teaching yourself to feel safe again. You are understanding yourself. You're understanding that little worry Wendy inside of you. So take what resonates, go slow with yourself, and just know that you're not alone in this. Anxiety is like one of the most common things that a lot of people deal with, and they do get through it. So take what resonates, practice it, implement it, and I hope this really helps. And save this, subscribe, follow for more. If you're watching this on video, hello, and I will see you in our next episode.